Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video I wanted to go ahead and break down some of the bigger tournaments that happened over the course of this past week. This is the first week that Shimmering Skies was legal for tournament play, I guess you could say. So we're going to go ahead and just look at these lists. We'll take a look at some of the bigger tournaments, maybe like 20, 25 or more people, and just see what cards and decks are making their way into the metagame. This is not like a meta report necessarily, because I haven't had time to sit down and really overanalyze the decks and the card choices. So we're just going to kind of go in and just see how things are adapting. So we'll start with this one. This was 32 players, Mulligan Challenge number 11. And some of these lists I'll be looking at for the very first time. So Fabian, I'm pretty sure this guy has been on stream a few times at a DLC or multiple DLCs. They're on Sapphire Ruby. And yes, this is set 5 meta. We've got the new card Visions of the Future. I think this card is just absolutely fantastic for the deck, by the way. Scry 5, I'm surprised to see Develop and Visions make its way into the deck, but I think Visions would definitely take the Develop Your Brain's place, just because looking at the top 5 and putting one into your deck, think of like Pot of Prosperity from Yu-Gi-Oh! For the Yu-Gi-Oh! Players here. This card is insane compared to Develop Your Brain, where it's just the top 2. Plus, on turn 1 for Sapphire, I'd rather develop an item over using Develop. And then on turn 2, or probably not on turn 2, but like when you actually need to dig for an answer, you use Visions of the Future. But if you're bricked or something, Visions can help you unbrick. It's definitely a great option. The Sisu line with the small Sisu into big Sisu, only 2 small Sisu, so the shift is very unlikely, but I think the small Sisu has a lot of play, especially in this meta now. It was always really good, especially with Ice Block. I've talked about this many times before in the past. But with Daisy becoming a force in the metagame, this card just has even more play. Another set 5 or more set 5 cards making their way in. Chicha as an alternative draw engine. We saw the Maurice's Workshop version of Ruby Sapphire take DLC Bologna, because that player specifically said, like, Maurice's Workshop, insane draw engine. Obviously, we saw them, almost draw out their deck, basically, in the finals match against Steel Song. But Chicha is another way you can facilitate that with the Fishbone Quill and with the new Donald Duck, which I think is really underrepresented right now in Sapphire. I think this card becomes a staple in Sapphire. It's just way too good. 5 costs, so it helps you bridge the gap from Fishbone, playing a 5 cost card on turn 4, which this does, and then it ramps you further. It's a good sized body at 3/4. It's inkable and it quests for 2, and it ramps you, so it has instant value. Like, there's just so many good things going for this card. I really think that this makes its way into almost every Sapphire list, or it should, at least in my opinion. Still on the 1 jump, so no Tipo in this list, which is very interesting. I think Tipo is probably one of the strongest additions that Sapphire Ruby got. And then only 1 Hideaway and no Cusco, Selfish Emperor, the new one that allows you to banish a location or an item. This is basically the same thing at Hideaway, just in action form, and it costs 2. So overall, interesting list. Still on the 4 Maleficents, 4 Tamatoas, and 2 Madame Medusa, 3 Be Prepared. Okay, solid list, right? Like Sapphire Ruby, any way to increase consistency with this deck just makes it stronger and stronger. Second place, no 2 cost item. I forgot the name of it already, but still on the Develop Your Brain. Not item, sorry, the 2 cost action, that is Scry 5. Not too many sets 5 cards on the Gaston. Again, a good check to Daisy, a good check to Sisu that Ruby Amethyst might still be playing. This Sisu here, Emboldened Warrior. On the Daring Visitor, on 4 of the Empowered Sibling. Yeah, I picked up 3 foil copies of this. I'm pretty sure I told you guys in like a couple of my older videos that this card is just going to be insane moving forward. After my initial reaction thinking that this card may not be the best, but yeah, it's proven it's going to prove to be very, very effective, I think, in the future. And then 2 Selfish Emperor. Okay, interesting. Sapphire Ruby doing well in this challenge here, coming in 3rd place as well. Let's take a look at Amber Steel Song. This is the deck that a lot of people are gravitating towards. Interesting to see that the Naveen is on 2 instead of 3. Definitely not 4, but I think most people were, including myself, were on 3. Only 3 Daisy Duck, still on 4 Cinderella, because obviously they're going to value the Storm and Strength interactions here. 3 Robin Hood. Okay, so 10 1-drops. Interesting. I mean, I think Robin Hood at this point could probably be cut. I don't know. I prefer the Queen lines personally, but I guess if you're worried about... I mean, Steel Song shouldn't have a problem with aggro, though, right? Like, you play low enough to the ground and you have songs, like, aggro should not be a problem for you. So I think the Queen provides more value, giving you some mid-range threats, like mid-range threat in the middle part of the game. But yeah, Force Me Still, 3 Bare Necessities, 3 Ursula. So 4 Cinderella, 3 Ursula, which is interesting because I think you would want to be on 4 Zeus, but they're on 3 here. 4 Ariel, 4 Lawrence Still. This is a card that I think might get cut eventually. It is great value, don't get me wrong, but I just think there might be more impactful cards to play. Especially since you're not playing Piglet, like you're not necessarily on the super aggro-oriented version. 4 Let the Storms Rage On, 3 Pete, 4 Strength, okay, 4 New World, only 2 Grab Your Swords, and still on the 2 Cinderella. So that's why you're playing 4 of the 1-drop Cinderella, is to facilitate the shift. Again, I'm not trying to sound like I'm criticizing these decks. These guys obviously, you know, are very good players, very good deck builders to make top cut in an event. I'm just trying to rationalize it in my own head kind of thing, like why this, why that, what might phase out, what might stay in the meta. But yeah, very interesting list. And then, again, just consistent, right? Standard list, does what it needs to do, not playing anything fancy where you're looking for a very specific combo in order to win. Very interesting to see Sapphire Amethyst, and my guess is this is probably, okay, this is a Merlin version. I talked about this in my Sapphire Amethyst list where I said, you know, this list, or this ink pairing finally has some stay in the metagame now, thanks to the addition of cards like Mim Elephant, not really Mim Elephant, but mainly this new Elsa, and some of the additional rush cards that Amethyst gets. Like, and they're on the Cogsworth, which is nice, but they got top 8, so awesome on the representation of Sapphire Amethyst. 3 Mickey, okay, yep, the Tipo for ramp, the Mickey for ramp. Not focused on items, the 1 Mufasa, you know, searchable target, the 1 Cusco, searchable target, Let It Go, searchable target, Hades, Elsa, etc., etc. A lot of nice searchable targets there. On Castle still, on the 4 Merlin, 4 Goats, 4 Rabbits, of course. Still on Cogsworth in this build, or, you know, opting to put Cogsworth in. I'm not sure I see the value of Cogsworth here in particular because it does represent a weakness against Ruby, and I think this deck does enough against Steel that you don't need Cogsworth, but interesting to see that it's included in this list here, because I'm just wondering, like, what is this really going to do for you, right? Like, you don't need it to guard your Mim Elephant or your Elsa, really, or your Cusco or your Merlin or your Hades or your Elsa or your Mufasa. Like, these cards all have enough willpower on their own, I would think. It guards, like, I guess the good news is that it guards these Merlins because the 3 willpower on the Rabbit and the Goat is very vulnerable, and on Fox, like, yeah, it helps your Fox trade more consistently if you get this out and then play Fox. But that's really the only value I see there with the Cogsworth. But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, maybe that player has a specific line in mind. We got an Amber Ruby here, which is interesting. Whoa. Oh my goodness, this is not a Mufasa deck. This is... Oh, this is not even something that I even looked at, really. Is this like songs? Yeah, it is. Oh wait, yeah, 21 songs, but no flutes. Are they on the Allen? Yes, they are on Allen. Only 2 though. Okay, cool. Amber Ruby songs, I think, is a deck that has never really been explored, or maybe it has and it just never did well. Like, I've built a couple iterations of it but never was able to test it. I think this deck, this ink pairing, is just 1 card draw card away. Like, it really only has Rapunzel. Julieta isn't strong. Again, in my testing, I think I realized, you know, Julieta just isn't really that great. But you just need another, like, solid draw card. Like, yeah, Rapunzel is just, it's so good, man. If you get another card that allows you to draw in either Amber or Ruby, this ink pairing, I think, becomes pretty top tier, because it is very strong right now. But it just lacks consistency because of the lack of card draw. So, interesting list here. Not sure if I would build my list the same way. Like, I don't know why You Have Forgotten Me is in here. You don't want flutes necessarily because it's an uninkable. It's tempo loss. The 0 to Hero is not something I would be on either, but interesting inclusion. I think this list is solid enough, but I think there is room to innovate on this list. And again, you gotta keep in mind that, like, you know, some of these lists might be constructed based on, like, limitations, because this is only the first week. Not everybody has their full deck lists built. But this is interesting to see. Very nice. All right, let's keep going here. So that was in France. What else do we want to look at? Plenty of Games Release Celebration 1K. Only 1 deck to look at, and it is... I think this ink pairing is very strong. Amber, Emerald. Pretty strong. I think the Anna, so Anna was hyped up at the beginning of the set and it was really expensive. Then it really fell off and Clarabel ended up taking off. But I do think this Anna is low-key very good. After initially looking at her and being like, she's kind of underwhelming. But I was discounting her ability to be procced with the Muses. Where you basically on like, if you go for turn 4 Muses, turn 5 Anna proc the ability by paying an extra 2. Force a discard, and then if you sing a song, you can bounce the Anna back, and you just have a recurable discard engine, right? I mean, Muses can bounce back the Daisy Duck as well, but this card, like, especially in Emerald Steel now, I think, like, if you lose Bucky, you put Anna in, for example. Not that you construct it the same way with Floodborns, but, like, being able to, let's say you already have Muses and you already have Anna on board, you quest with Anna, you sing, let's say, Let the Storm Rage on a target, you damage it for 2, you bounce back the Anna, then you replay Anna, and you just banish the card you sung Let the Storm Rage on onto. So not only do you get to draw a card and damage a card, you get to replay the Anna and banish the card that you play. So you basically banish and draw to replay the Anna, which readies it back up, protects it from the 2 quests that you got initially if it was already on board. Like, there's so many cool interactions with it I think you can pull off. But yeah, this discard list, the Under the Sea continues to be one of the strongest cards in the game, I think. Not sure how this is not played at 4 in every single list. It is very, very strong. And it's just so versatile because it can be synced together, right? So, interesting list there. But top 4 did not win, similar to the Battle Bear event where that deck did win. Moving on, we got a first place Sapphire Steel list from a 2-box tournament. Okay, doing the anti-aggro stuff with the Captain Hook, Smee, Tipo, 2 Pete, still on the belt. I would think this card gets phased out, but you know, I guess not. I guess it does have some staying power and some utility still. Okay, 4 Hiram, of course, 2 Chenpo, 4 Cogsworth, 4 Tinkerbell, 1 Arthur, interesting. Okay, and 1 Hades. 2 Dimes, only 3 Whole New Worlds. So really depending on Hiram for a card draw. On the Visions of the Future and Sapphire Steel, I would not really peg this deck to be one that needs to play this. But you know, it's not a bad card. It's still Scry 5. I just think there's better interactions you'd want to play and use your ink on. Okay, only 1 Zeus. How did this person get away with 1 Zeus? That's interesting. 3 Grab Your Swords. I guess they were, like, again, it could be like a meta call. Maybe their locals or whatever, or wherever this area was very high on aggro, and so they opted for 3 Grab Your Swords and only 1 Zeus, right? But I would think 4 Zeus is becoming kind of a staple. But Zeus does seem to be losing some of its key value. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of things that play around Zeus now, if that makes sense. Like a lot of things with like 6 willpower, or like they're making smaller characters stronger so that you have to Zeus them. Like you can't Storm Rage a Daisy Duck like you could Storm Rage a Maleficent or a Lilo, right? You have to Zeus a Daisy Duck, and using Zeus, a 4-cost song on a 1-cost character, just feels terrible, right? So there's like little things like that I think is a little weird. Let's take a look at this league that had a bunch of people. Vonderland. This is a well-known good player, streamer, I believe. On a hyper-aggro Steel Amethyst list. Very interesting. Okay, leveraging... Okay, it's called Dock. Yeah, Dock hyper-aggro. I was going to say leveraging the Dock to dump your hand and then just draw 2. Okay. I think this... I don't know. To me, this card didn't seem very good. I mean, obviously, they made it work and they won this event with it, but... I don't know. I have to see how the deck plays in order to really judge it. But just on the surface, I just think it's a weird game plan. I mean, at the worst, I guess you can end up ditching a bad hand and like even if you discard 2, right, and you draw 2 new cards, that could be good. But I mean, a deck that's so low to the ground, you're not going to really have any bad cards, right? I mean, you just lose if it gets to the mid game, right? But you're going to win before that, hopefully. Interesting list though. Aggro being out here being a... Oh, he didn't win. Sorry, he came second. Sorry, I took a yawn there, but yeah, second with for the perfect record, coming second on tiebreakers. And then I guess the final, or I guess we can look at 2 more here. Or actually, look at this last one here. A 1K with 47 play. Mufasa ended up taking it. That's unexpected. Alonzo, wait. Emerald Amber? Mufasa? Or Amber Ruby? Okay, that must be like a like typo or something. What an interesting list. How many non-characters? 8? Okay, Teeth and Ambitions. This is a card that I talked about coming back into the meta for a few videos now. Interesting that there's no Brawl, but I think Teeth and Ambitions definitely has a lot of staying power in this meta, which could be a good or bad thing for certain decks, certain matchups. 4 Daisy Ducks, okay, 4 Mulan, 4 Flynn, so still on the Flynn Rider, and then the Sisu line here. I'm trying to think the lanterns, right? So you lantern, I guess that means, if you go Mulan 1, Lantern 2, that's Rapunzel on 3, which is basically like just-in-time Rapunzel, but you get a permanent resource in Lantern. Lantern is also turn 4 Maui, turn 4 Mufasa. Yeah, just being able to play out your big threats early, I think, is really good. This is what I mean about Ruby Amber, though, guys. Like, you can accelerate with a Lantern, but then you lose resource, right? Where's your card draw coming from? It's only the Rapunzel. I mean, later on in the game, you have 4 Stitches, which is really critical to hit as well. But you're hoping to stave off pressure via tempo, either just casually sitting back with Flynn Rider, gaining the lore, I guess, or controlling the game with Maui and Mufasa into this like mid-range, because you'll have no cards by the time you get to like up to this point. So your Maui has to go 2 for 1, 3 for 1. Your Mufasa has to stick, and it does stick, right? I mean, it's a 3/3 body that quests for 2. It has to be answered, and when it's answered, it likely replaces itself, hopefully with something good. The issue is there's a lot of unique ways to deal with Mufasa now, right? Like Bruno, bounce it back, force to discard, put it into the Inkwell now, etc. Well, I mean, putting it into the Inkwell was always a thing with Let It Go and Hades. The Julieta, I've talked about this before, isn't really a card draw option in my opinion. Yes, it just comes down and replaces itself, but I look at it more as a Maleficent than like something like a Rapunzel. Like, yes, it's card draw, but it's not impactful card draw, if that makes sense. Interesting to see that they're on a 6-cost uninkable package here. Hydra, Lady Tremaine, and Medusa. Okay, no 9-drop Maleficent Dragon, just too expensive for what it needs to do, I guess. Yes, hitting it off Mufasa is nice, but hitting any of these off Mufasa is also good, and these are cheaper for more or less the same effect. On the double Maximus, which is meant to, I'm assuming, to pair with, I guess you could say Maui, Hydra, Gaston, and Chernobog. I just posted a video on this, or at least, the day that I'm making this video, I just posted a video on this, showing the Maximus Gaston synergy with like the Mulan, the Mother Gothel, and I was using Beast as extra fodder for like putting a damaged character into play, which makes your Gaston 5 cost or lower right off the bat, and then developing a Maximus if the Gaston can stick on board. And this is hard to out, right? Through challenging, you just basically need a hard removal spell for it, but this card will trade definitely like 2 or 3 for 1, which is crazy. And then it just procs the Maximus. So if you drop Gaston and it lives, you pass back to you. Or if you're able to drop this super cheap because you have a bunch of damaged characters, you can drop this and the Maximus, and that's instant 5 lore, right? There's nothing your opponent can do about it. So yeah, Maximus, I think, is very underexplored in the Ruby combination. If Flynn Rider is popular, I don't see why Maximus would not be popular. The issue is, Flynn Rider was popular in Ruby Amethyst, which is why it was so expensive. Maximus probably is not played in Ruby Amethyst just because you don't find ways to fit in Gaston, because you can't synergize the Gaston with things like you can in Ruby Amber, whereas you play Mulan and Mother Gothel, you don't play those in Ruby Amethyst, right? So it's a bit of a paradigm shift in the philosophy of the two decks. But yeah, I think Maximus is a decent card, but I don't think the price runs away like it did with Flynn last set. We got good old Ruby Amethyst making its way into second place, losing to Ruby Amber, funnily enough. Wow, back on the 1/3s, but for only 2 Teeth and Ambitions. I wonder what the rationale is for playing 8 of the 1/3s now instead of Chernobog Followers. I'm trying to think, I can't think of anything really. Okay, 4 Flynn Rider still, 4 the Sisu. On 3 Crab, okay, pretty standard list. There's not even a set 5 card in here, which is interesting. Just showing that I guess set 4 stuff can still do work in set 5. We got another Sapphire Amethyst, and this one is not on the Merlin shift. So again, just proving that this ink pairing doesn't need Merlin to stay viable. Like, it's still able to out here doing work on the Ursula shift line, which is very interesting, but not on Fishbone, on Mickey Mouse's and Tipo instead, which makes sense. So those are your ramp. No Donald Duck. I feel like if you're playing Mickey, you might as well play Donald, because I think Tipo is better than Mickey. Like this coming down for 2 and being inkable. You don't care about your hand in this deck, right? Because you're drawing tons of cards. 2 Mufasa and 2 Elsa instead of playing the Merlin Shift. I don't know, man. I think the Merlin Shift has value as a 2 or 3 of. So this list is a little I shouldn't say similar, but like tech option wise interesting. So like the Tipo, the Magical Dispel, I use this card. It's really good to stave off discard, obviously. That's what it's made for. Interesting list. Top 8 with Emerald Amethyst. Okay. Library instead of Castle. Man, Library, I don't know, guys. Library, I think, might be low-key pretty strong, but we'll have to wait and see. Mother Gothel, Elsa. Okay. Again, this is a tempo strategy, not really too much of an aggro. The Banzai card, I think this is very underrated, this card right here. I don't know if I talked about it or not. I think I did in my Emerald review. But yeah, I would opt to play this over Flynn Rider for sure. It just has way more staying power. Right? Way more bite, literally. Pun intended. Anyways. Yeah, Mim Snake. Okay. Yeah, Chernobog, Magic Broom. Okay, and Deceiver. So a lot of very low to the ground, right? 12 1s and 2s. I like it. I think it works. 3 Lyle, 3 Kit. This is like this Kit Cloud Kicker just kills aggro, man. This and Jock or Jack, however you say it. But Kit Cloud Kicker is just like insane against aggro. Yeah, I agree with this list. The one crab is kind of eh. I don't really like the one of. It's kind of just like, why is it a one of if I can't like consistently search it? 4 Library. Yeah. Like the interaction with like Library with Curse Merfolk is just insane. 2 Elephant. I'm a fan of the Elephant. I'm a fan of the Merlins here in this deck list. Yep. The Elsa, I don't know if it fits in this list. Like, I think there are better things you'd want to do on 5. But, you know, the Elsa is just great value overall. The issue is you don't really have anything to really benefit with the Elsa. Like, you tap something down, you need like multiple characters to swing into what you tap down probably by the time turn 5 comes around, which I guess is not really too much of an ask, because if you got like Goat or Fox on field still, like these are still big bodies in terms of strength. This Mother Gothel I think is also really interesting. I don't know how good it's going to be. I know a lot of people are high up on it, but like when I was testing against Emerald Steel discard, I was using the Chromacon Emerald item, which allows you to bounce characters whenever one of your characters is banished. And I was just like running into situations where I didn't want to bounce any of my opponent's stuff, especially the purple stuff. Like I don't want to bounce a Goat, a Merlin, a Rabbit Goat, a Madam Mim. I don't want to bounce those because they get value off of it, right? So I'm just like, if you're forcing your opponent to take something back to hand, that might be like, yeah, that's great for me. But I guess in those scenarios you don't play this. In certain scenarios, I guess it is really strong. I don't know. It's weird. And then, yeah, the big Ursula as a just huge body quester that shifts on top of small Ursula. Solid list, though. I like it a lot. Like, I don't think this card is bad. I just think it can just, like, be like, I don't want to play it, so, like, I guess you just ink it, right? But, you know, a 2 questing 4/6 body, super strong. It's just the ability is sometimes hit or miss or can be used against you, which I don't like. All right, so you know, that's what's popping up in the meta. Let me know. Oh, sorry. One thing before we go. This is the new kind of ink pairing that's popping up, which utilizes the Clarabel. Very, very strong. Yeah, basically a Song Emerald Amber list. Or Amber, geez. Emerald Sapphire list. 3 Hiram, 4 Bells, 3 Tamatoa, the Mother Gothels, 4 Clarabel. So basically, the thing that you kind of try to do with this list is you bounce a bunch of stuff back to the opponent's hand, make them draw cards with your welcome, right? And then you end up Clarabelling. So if you like sing Mother Knows Best a few times, which, you know, there's no Ursula in this deck, but like sing Mother Knows Best, use Muses, that's a bounce 2, right? Bounce 2 resources back to your opponent's hand. You sang this, so you didn't use any ink, and then you just ramp out ahead of time the Clarabel, and this nets you like a draw 2, draw 3, draw 4. and then you just continue to lock down the board. And this card is also very good. I mean, you're not playing the shift target, but you don't necessarily need it, especially in a Sapphire pairing where you can ramp. But this card and anything else will sing the Under the Sea, and Under the Sea is insanely powerful. The only downside is there's nothing in this deck, which, you know, Sapphire does have access to reduce strength. I think that's something I would want. Or I guess, yeah, you have ice blocks, but like only 2. But yeah, that is an interesting interaction. A lot of uninkables, 2, 4, 8, 12, 15, 17. I guess, yeah, I guess that's fine. Lady Tremaine to get back Under the Sea, to get back You're Welcome, to get back Mother Knows Best. Yeah, okay, I can see it. Again, in a ramp deck, you have Fishbone. Oh, never mind. What am I saying? Your uninkables don't matter really that much. I mean, you have Fishbone, so yeah, never mind. What am I saying? I'm not sure how I feel about One Jump and Tipo. I think maybe Tipo is just enough, but I do like the Lady Tremaine inclusion. I think that's nice. Yeah, you can get a lot of value on a deck like this for sure. I just think maybe you go higher on the ice blocks to combo with the Under the Sea, and I would go for Under the Sea. Under the Sea is just too good. Yeah, this is an ink pairing I'm very curious to try. All right, but that is going to wrap it up there, guys. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section below what you think. If you enjoy these kind of meta reviews, thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.